Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, have had a whirlwind October. From Paris Fashion Week to World Mental Health Day in New York, from the Most Powerful Women Summit in Washington to the launch of Meghan's As Ever holiday collection, their month reflected focus, consistency, and a steady rhythm of purpose. Now, as November begins, the rhythm continues, but this time it's Harry taking centre stage. The Duke of Sussex is heading to Canada, a country that has long held a special place in his story. His week in Toronto will be devoted to veterans, remembrance, and rebuilding a mission that's defined his Posomtroyal life. It's no red carpet tour or charity gala for the cameras. Harry's itinerary is deeply personal. Visits to the Veterans Centre at Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre, meetings with the True Patriot Love Foundation, and a collaboration with the Halo Trust, the very charity where his late mother, Princess Diana, made history walking through a landmine field in Angola. For Harry, this is not about publicity. It's about purpose. His spokesperson put it simply, the focus is on honouring those who served. And yet, within hours of the announcement, British tabloids found their favourite storyline not about veterans, not about service, but about sibling rivalry. According to the Daily Mail, Harry's trip to Canada was a direct clash with Prince William's tour of Brazil for the Earthshot Prize. The headline practically shouted, "Harry's visit to Toronto comes as William dazzles in Rio," as if veterans' rehabilitation programs were a plot to overthrow a climate award show. And then came the Daily Beast's Tom Sykes, always eager to add fuel to the royal soap opera, claiming that friends of the air view Harry's trip as calculated to annoy. Because apparently caring about injured veterans can now be interpreted as an act of provocation. GB News followed the same script, calling Harry's visit particularly inappropriate given William's environmental mission. The sheer irony of that take cannot be overstated. A man who served in Afghanistan, dedicating his life to helping those injured in service, is accused of bad timing because his brother is attending a televised award show. Let's pause there. When King Charles and William have overlapping engagements, no one mentions a clash. When Harry quietly visits a veterans' hospital, suddenly it's revenge travel. What this exposes is not rivalry, but fragility, a monarchy so delicate that even a charity event in Canada can trigger headlines of panic. The truth is simple. Harry's trip has been in the works for nearly a year. The True Patriot Love Foundation, a respected Canadian veterans charity, set the dates. His team didn't pick the week to coincide with anyone's schedule. They followed through on long-term commitments. The palace was even notified well in advance, but logic rarely survives in royal reporting. For the tabloids, there must always be conflict. They can't comprehend Harry's life outside the monarchy's orbit. To them, purpose must always be filtered through palace politics. And that's where Harry's work stands out. Since leaving royal duties, he's proven that service doesn't stop when titles do. His work with Invictus, Archewell and Veterans Recovery Projects are built on real relationships, not ribbon cuttings or photo ops. Toronto itself is symbolic. It was the host city of the 2017 Invictus Games, a turning point in Harry's journey, both professionally and personally. It was also where he and Meghan made their first public appearance together. For him, this return carries both memory and mission. The contrast between Harry's grounded approach and the palace's PR machine could not be clearer. William's Earthshot tour to Brazil, though noble in concept, feels increasingly like a glossy production. There are red carpets, staged interviews, and headlines about royal charm. Meanwhile, Harry's quietly meeting wounded veterans, no flashbulbs, no fanfare. And that's exactly why the British press can't stand it. Because when Harry succeeds through sincerity, their narrative collapses. They can no longer claim he's struggling for relevance. Every meaningful act he performs outside the institution proves the opposite, that his work was never dependent on the palace. Even so, they twist the story. Calculated timing, revenge trip, publicity stunt. Those phrases sell papers, but they don't reflect reality. Harry's mission has been consistent for a decade. The same Invictus Foundation, the same military mental health focus, the same partnerships. What changes is the lens. When he was inside the monarchy, it was inspirational. Now it's provocative. The work hasn't changed, only the royal approval stamp has. Interestingly, when William tours the globe, the narrative is always future king on a mission. Yet, when Harry works with real people, veterans, youth, and global communities, the same papers label it performative. Why? Because authenticity threatens the system. Let's talk about that system for a moment. British tabloids rely on palace briefings, exclusives, and inside access. When Harry and Meghan cut that pipeline, the press lost control. Now they fill the gap with conjecture and drama because the truth that the Sussexes are thriving doesn't fit the preferred storyline. Notice the timing. Every time Harry or Meghan steps into a meaningful project, another royal source appears to downplay it. Meghan's As Ever brand launch? The Daily Mail tried to bury it under fake claims about royal snubs. Harry's Toronto trip? Suddenly it's about William again. It's as if the press cannot imagine Harry as an individual. To them, he exists only in comparison, always as the other brother. But this week in Toronto, that comparison falls apart. Because while William poses for cameras in Rio, Harry's connecting directly with veterans who credit him with changing their lives. That's not PR. That's purpose. Let's not forget the Halo Trust, which Harry will engage with in Canada, remains one of the most respected humanitarian groups in the world. It was his mother's legacy. Harry has continued it not through spectacle, but through consistent, tangible work. The same kind of work that rarely gets prime coverage in royal circles because it lacks pageantry. But maybe that's the whole point. Service without spectacle terrifies the royal establishment because it reminds people that compassion doesn't require crowns. This latest clash narrative also reveals something else: how fragile the royal PR machine has become. When the palace feels overshadowed by a veterans event, you know the priorities are misplaced. If William's global environmental mission can be threatened by his brother honouring soldiers, the insecurity speaks for itself. And what of the Princess of Wales? The tabloids say she's settling into yet another estate, Forest Lodge, as if estate hopping were a sign of stability. Her absence from public life continues to spark whispers, but royal coverage keeps the lens carefully angled away from the questions that matter. Instead, they fixate on Harry, the man they supposedly don't need. If they truly believed that, they'd stop talking about him every single day. But they can't, because his independence is a living rebuke to the institution they protect. Every trip he takes, every project he supports, every quiet conversation with a veteran or survivor, it's a reminder that leadership isn't about title. It's about impact. When Harry launched the Invictus Games, few in the establishment believed it would last. Now it's a global movement. When he and Meghan built Archewell, critics dismissed it as a vanity project. Today, it's funding mental health programs and women-led initiatives worldwide. So, of course, they panic, because the Sussex's influence isn't measured by palace photo ops, but by people's lives. In Brazil, William's Earthshot Awards are polished, televised and scripted, full of Hollywood glitz. In Toronto, Harry's engagements are intimate, grounded and real. One plays to the cameras, the other to the cause. That contrast says everything about the two royal paths. One is about performance, the other about purpose. But the British media, forever addicted to drama, can't resist trying to pit them against each other. Because a world where both brothers simply work in peace doesn't sell. Conflict does. That's why, even when Harry's spokesperson clearly stated that his visit was planned long in advance, even when it's confirmed that royal communications, new tabloids, still twist it into a feud. Because truth doesn't trend, controversy does. Yet what the media misses time and again is that Harry has no need to compete. His work stands on its own. His credibility with veterans, mental health advocates and young leaders is earned, not inherited. And as he steps into Canada once more, you can feel that sense of continuity. This is where his global service found its voice. This is where Invictus blossomed. It's also where he and Meghan, hand in hand, began their journey as partners in purpose. That's the real story, not rivalry, but resilience. Not clashing diaries, but consistent service. As November continues, Harry's focus will remain with the veterans and their families. He'll attend remembrance events, private briefings, and fundraising dinners, all part of his decade-long mission to support those who gave everything in uniform. And while tabloids count headlines, Harry counts impact. That's what defines his post-royal life. Quiet work with lasting results. The irony is that the same media who call him irrelevant can't go a single week without making him front-page news. Every success he has, they frame as defiance. Every silence they frame as defeat. They need him far more than he needs them. Meanwhile, the public, especially younger generations, see through it. They see a man who turned pain into purpose, trauma into service. They see that the spare has found his own crown, one built not from gold, but from gratitude. As William's Earthshot cameras fade, and as the tabloids run out of recycled drama, Harry's work continues steady, unscripted, sincere. The veterans he meets this week won't care about royal optics. They'll care that someone showed up, that someone listened, that someone who's been there understands, and that someone is Harry. Let's be honest, this relentless attempt to create rivalry only diminishes the monarchy itself. Because when doing good becomes political, the institution loses moral ground. Harry's example cuts through that noise. He proves you don't need permission to serve. You don't need palace approval to care. In Toronto, he'll likely avoid the spotlight. But the impact of his presence for veterans, for advocates, for those rebuilding their lives, will resonate long after he leaves. And perhaps that's what unsettles the old guard most, the idea that meaning can exist outside monarchy. Because the truth is, Harry has built a new model of royal life, one defined by empathy, not ego. So while the media lose their minds over supposed clashes and revenge tours, Harry keeps doing what he's always done, showing up, doing the work and letting the results speak louder than the noise. And that, dear listeners, is why he remains the people's prince, not by title, but by trust. This Toronto trip isn't a response to anyone. It's a continuation of everything he's stood for: community, compassion, and commitment to those who serve. While others compete for headlines, Harry is writing a legacy one rooted in real service, not staged appearances. As the world watches him in Canada this week, the story isn't rivalry. It's redemption. It's purpose. It's a man defining leadership on his own terms. And that's what the British press will never fully grasp, because truth, unlike spin, doesn't need permission to shine.